Hi, aviation operations students. Today we're going to be talking to a former Navy aviator and current FedEx pilot, Mr. Garth Olsen. Garth, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with the students.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's been an honor to get the invitation to speak to you guys and talk about aviation. It's something that is clearly a passion for me, and it kind of needs to be a passion, I think, if you're going to pursue it for a career for everyone. So the way I got into aviation, it's kind of a long story, but it's definitely worth telling. When I was a kid, like a lot of kids, I was huge into aviation. I liked to go to air shows. My father he had a private pilots for a while, and then he had a partnership in an airplane, a 172. And so when I was really little, I got to go out flying a few times with him in Montana. And it just further sparked the interest in aviation. I didn't initially go to college for aviation. I did go to Montana Tech and play football. It was kind of always in the back of my mind about pursuing either getting a private pilot's license. I didn't know how to get there as a career when I was going like in your steps right now when I was starting college. But I did know that the military was an option. When I graduated college, I tried to get my privates, and I started with paying for it on my own. And I quickly learned that it was expensive. So I looked at other options, and the military was kind of the path I chose. And I didn't exactly know which branch I was going to go into. And it come from a rich military history in my family. I just kind of started shooting applications. I went to the Air Force and told them I'd be interested in being a pilot. And I did the same thing with the Navy. And I'll get to it later, but there's some loopholes you have to kind of wade yourself around if you do pursue to go to the military about getting recruited and what your avenues are to become a pilot. But I'll try and lay that out for you and warn you of like some of the shortfalls there that has happened to some friends of mine that just went to a recruiter and wanted to be a pilot and ended up being on a submarine or something because they didn't know what they were doing. But so I went to, like I said, I went to the Air Force and the Navy, and the Air Force was interested, but they were kind of in a hiring slump. But the Navy was definitely looking for pilots. And, I wasn't really an above average student. I graduated college with like a 3.2 GPA in business administration. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a technical background. I had good health, I had good vision, but nowadays, vision can be corrected. So I was lucky with my health and my, to be able to pass the initial physical to get in. But, the Navy was willing to take me, and that's how I got started. So I went to OCS, which is Officers Candidate School. I didn't know much about the Navy. That's one way to get a commission. There are several ways if you do want to pursue the military. It doesn't really matter what branch, but there's ROTC scholarships that you can get. There's obviously the academies. There's going to the National Guards, which is something I'll try and hit on later, which I think is a great idea. But I didn't know about any of these. I just went to college, graduated, and then I knew that you could get a direct commissioning source through Officers Candidate School at the Navy. So I did that, but I was able to go into the Navy with a guaranteed pilot spot. And that's kind of important if you do want to pursue aviation. Make sure that you go to or try to speak to an officer recruiter and not an enlisted recruiter. And that you definitely want, be firm with them. Like it's aviation or bust before you sign a contract, because if they need, if they're a recruiter, their job is to get people in the military. And if they need some, jobs filled, they might try and, persuade you to go to another career path. But I knew that I was not going to go into the military unless I could become a pilot. That was my goal. That was the only reason I was going to the military. I was patriotic, but I didn't think I was going to make a career out of the military. I just told myself that as long as I was in, having fun, doing what I was doing, I'd stay in. So it ended up being a 21-year career. For flight school, once I graduated Officers Candidate School, you go in the Navy, you basically go to primary. You do a ground school, which is aviation pre-flight indoctrination. And if I throw out too many acronyms, I'll try to explain them, but that's called API. And That's like a 6-week program where you basically learn, all your ground school, like aviation, maintenance. You learn about weather, just kind of a general broad stroke. It's a good way to also weed folks out because it's fairly robust. It's a fire hose technique. They put a lot of information at you. There's a tests weekly, and there are some people that fail out of that, but for the most part, 95 to 98% of the people pass. And then from there, everybody goes to primary flight school, which you go and learn how to be basically like in your privates. It's a single seat airplane. I flew the T-34, and now it's the T-6, I think, the Navy uses. And you basically, you go through your familiarization flights, you learn how to take off land, all that stuff, they say for solo, and then you go through the different phases of kind of like following the general aviation industry. You do VFR flying, and then you start getting into instruments, and then it just sort of gradually, accelerates from there. And then after primary training, you pick what platform you're going to go to, and a lot of that depends on your class ranking. So it is competitive. It's always competitive. That they want you to work hard, get good grades. And then so like the top of the class will generally get their first pick of platform. And when I selected in the Navy, there was, you could go fixed wing or helicopter. And then in the fixed wing pipeline, you could either go maritime, which was like P3s, props, or you could go the C6 Galaxy, which is much like a commercial sized airplane that, and then there was, or you could go carrier aviation, which was mostly F-18, F-14, S-3 at the time. That was it. I wanted to go fixed wing, so I got my first choice. I wasn't top of the class, but I did get to go fixed wing. And then when I selected fixed wing, I was able to also select jets. So I was able to select the F-18. So I went through intermediate and advanced in Navy flight training, which the whole program takes about 3 years. They've kind of gotten better at that. So they've got it probably down to about 2 years. And then you graduate Navy flight training with your wings, basically. And it's the equivalent of essentially a commercial multi-engine license, because if you walk across the street with your Naval Aviation designation, Wings of Gold, to a FBO, FAA office, they will, you have to take the written test, but they will give you a civilian commercial multi-engine equivalent. So that's kind of, to get an idea where you're at once you graduate military training. And then it's off to the career. And for me, I flew F-18s. I was on the West Coast. I flew, we were based in Lemoore, California. I flew for VFA 146, the Blue Diamonds. I was operational back in like 2003 through 2006. I did Iraq and twice. So during the second Gulf War, and then I came back from sea duty, what they call the Navy, where you're operational, and then they give you shore duty, which for an aviator that means you're going to be going to be an instructor pilot, either back at the Navy flight school, or you're going to do something in the support capacity in training, or there's other support flying around personnel, but it's considered shore duty and you're not really deploying. So I got pretty lucky with that. I ended up in Key West, flying with an aggressor squadron out there. We lived there for almost 8 years. I think when we first moved there, our kids were pretty young. My daughter was like 4th grade. So my kids pretty much grew up in the Key West, at least through middle school and mostly through elementary, middle school. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, as in the aggressor squadrons in the Navy, you're the bad guy, kind of like the movie Top Gun. I flew the F-5, which happened to be the MiG-28 in the original Top Gun movie. So as far as my career aside, that was kind of how I got into the Navy. I think what you guys are interested in most likely is like how to get from where you're at now to the military, which is what I'll try and focus on. So like I didn't know about ROTC. If the military is something that you're considering, I don't know what's at Bozeman, but I know that there's probably some version of ROTC scholarship, or if it's a 2-year program for the aviation program and you want to pursue a 4-year program, to get a degree. You can look into applying for ROTC scholarships at different schools for the different branches of service, either the Air Force, Marine Corps, Army, or the Navy. Everybody does some form of aviation. That's a great way to get your foot in the door and then have college paid for, have a lot of fun because you get exposed to the military, you get uniforms, but you're still, sort of civilianized. And then you can, when you graduate, you can put in for a pilot spot. With your ROTC commitment, you do owe the military something. Typically for an officer, it's like 4-year commitment. So there is a risk if you, say you get an ROTC scholarship and you do not get an aviation spot, then you're going to have to do something in that branch of military for 4 years. But that's not the end of the world, especially if you, because it's a job. It's a great job. It's got great benefits, and that still gives you an opportunity to get a lot of experience. And there's plenty of time. Even when I was full-time in the military, I had plenty of time to do side stuff. So if you wanted to still pursue aviation on the side of your military career, it's definitely doable. So that would be one of the ways. And then the other way is to pursue the Guard. And the Guard's a great option if you're in college to enlist in the Guard. They will pay for school. And then most of the time, they like to bring their pilots, they call them homegrown. They like to hire their pilots within. So if you enlist, you show commitment to the Guard unit, and then they will send you hopefully to a training pilot spot to fly. There's different kinds of, there's jets, there's, there's C-130s, C-17s, there's all kinds of different platforms to be able to fly. But like the Montana National Guard, specifically up in Great Falls, they fly C-130s, but, they have a rich history. They flew F-16s, F-15s. So, and the one thing that's awesome about the Guard is you can do that part-time. So it's not a full-time commitment like what I did with the military. You can still pursue a civilian career in aviation and still do your Guard duties. In fact, a lot of folks that I know that do it really enjoy it. And that's another opportunity to pursue the military. That's kind of what I mean, as far as the different routes for the military, that kind of covers all those. My plug for the military is, like, for me, I had a job for 21 years. I got to fly. I got, tons of PIC time, and I had a blast. I mean, there was times where I would say my face hurt because I was smiling so much. Like the military, doesn't matter what branch, it's a great family, and there's a lot of, team spirit, and it does feel like family, and it's, you get to travel the world, and it's a great experience. So even if you if you love to fly and you want to go get paid to fly really well and have a blast for typically if you're an aviator, your commitment's going to be more like probably 8 to 10 years, and then you can continue to pursue civilian aviation like I did. I got out of the military, and I was, I had to get my ATP, which I was able to do that, based on the time that I had built in the military. I had to study a little bit, and I hadn't done a lot of general aviation. So I did my ATP in a civilian airplane, a multi-engine. So I had never flown that type of airplane. So that was a steep learning curve. But I was able to get my ATP, and then, I was lucky enough to get a job at a major. Part of that was because I had 2,600 hours of PIC time, but I was able to build that in the military, and you can build enough to get an ATP without doing a career in the military. If you just go in for the 8 to 10 year commitment, you're going to come out of the military with more than enough PIC time, multi-engine time, to be able to walk right across the street and get a job with any major airline if they're hiring. Obviously, the career, the industry is cyclic, and right now with COVID, we're kind of in a low. FedEx and all the freight companies are booming because everybody's shipping stuff and ordering stuff at home from Amazon, and FedEx is doing great, but the commercial industry is kind of in a low. But right before this, they were at an all-time high, and they were in a huge hiring wave. So I wouldn't get distracted by that at all. But do you have any other questions for me?
So one question I have for you is you started out with a business degree. Quite a number of our students are doing what we call a 2+2. So they do the aviation program for 2 years, and then they work on their business degree for the other 2 years. Do you feel that having that business degree background helped you in your career?
Yeah, I think I mean, it did, because everything's a business, and even the military is a business. And honestly, I used to say that, I've said that forever. Everything is a business. So it gave me a lot of insight into, like you were saying, like because in business you study operations. There's the operations side to business, and I got into the operational side in the military, and it's I guarantee it's the same principles, how you run a squadron or a flight schedule operationally, that you would, if you were an operations manager of a supermarket. You've got inventory, you've got employees, you've got schedules to meet. Yeah, it definitely helped. I mean, I think a business degree, for lack of a better, I mean, if you don't know what you want to do, it's a great start, because everything's a business, and you can definitely apply it to just about anything in life. I thought it gave me a lot of good tools.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us, and
Yeah.
have a great day.